Hello, shitcoiners. Welcome back. As always, I'm joined by the shitcoin.com head honcho, Andreas Brecken. And today we have two very special guests. Joining us from Bitrefill, we have Sergej and John. Welcome, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to have you. I guess to kind of kick this off, either one of you, I guess it'd be good to get a bit of an intro into what you guys do and just kind of give us an overview. I guess first, Sergej.
Sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of Bitrefill. I've been doing this for over 4 years now, and in different ways. We're working towards the big vision of people being able to live inside of this Bitcoin economy, and a big part of that is to be able to buy stuff and to be able to buy stuff. Within this economy, without always having to go through regulated exchanges all the time, and so by giving people the option to buy stuff with their coins, it means that they can be more confident in holding the coins, because they know that at the very least I can exchange them for this kind of stuff that we have on Bitrefill, so gift cards and refills of prepaid phone bills and stuff like that, and then. During the past year and a half, I guess we've delved deeper and deeper into Lightning, mainly because we kind of saw what the situation was before, and that Lightning looks a lot like the technology that would need to be in place for this thing to be able to be used by loads and loads of people. And so we started with small stuff, doing little proof of concepts and so on, and now it's gradually becoming a bigger and bigger part of our company when it comes to the longer term strategy.
Awesome. And John?
I just zapped out and reconnected, so I missed the question.
Ah, cool. Yeah, just a brief intro to yourself, how you're involved in Bitrefill, and yeah, just an overview.
Yeah, my name is John Carvalho. I'm the CCO at Bitrefill. I've been doing a lot of the marketing and PR related things, and as Sergej probably just said, we're basically working to help create a circular economy for people that are spending crypto and living on crypto. And so we obviously have the ability for people to convert that into products and services, and now we're trying to get more into facilitating the commercial side of being in crypto through the Lightning Network and providing like Lightning service provider kind of services and products related to Lightning, and making Lightning easier to use for people.
Awesome.
And yeah, I mean, it's this closed loop, we've been talking about since since everybody heard about it, probably the first week in Bitcoin. So
yeah, I feel like it's like almost like a renaissance to get Lightning now, because people wanted to talk about peer-to-peer cash and instant cheap payments, and it's like now Lightning is actually kind of delivering that in a more direct way than base layer Bitcoin ever did. It was only temporary that we were able to do things that way in the early days, but now we can kind of have it again, and I really like the kind of new paradigm that Lightning is providing, more experimental capability, etc.
Awesome. And in terms of how Bitrefill, so you guys, I mean, I was checking it out in more detail. Like there's an insane coverage, right? Is it 170 countries, 1,650 businesses or more? In terms of how your business is developed, was it like kind of out of necessity that you had to explore Lightning and other coins, or how did that develop? How did you come to this point?
Well, the Lightning stuff was in part necessity, in part excitement, I think, from my perspective. We had a company here in Sweden that I was in conversations with a long time ago called StrawPay. They kind of identified in 2013 that one day there will be the block space will be scarce, and then prices will be high, and there will need to be payment channel technologies and so on. So I kind of like always had that in the back of my head. But
sorry to break in, but I think a lot of people don't know that payment channels were actually were invented and even implemented in Bitcoin script in 2013.
I think they were even described by Satoshi in the white paper, if I remember correctly, in some way or form.
Yeah,
or at least
the one I was referring to was Yeah, the one I was talking about was, I believe it's called the Tier Nolan protocol.
Right.
And it's on the original Bitcoin wiki. We'll put a link to it. It's pretty, it's a pretty cool.
This is sort of where you're starting to go at the top of my head. But yeah, and I mean, so payment channels has always been possible. There's some of the, if we're going to go into the tech stuff, is the HTLCs that depend on the newer opcodes and on SegWit, which fixes transaction malleability, which makes bidirectional the payment channels possible on Lightning, whereas the good old payment channels would only work one way, and you wouldn't have this where it could hop multiple hops like it can over Lightning in a trustless way. So in that model, you had hubs, and the hubs were very clearly payment service businesses, and that in itself is also like a little bit interesting. And there was a proposal called Moonbeam a couple of years ago that was also like sort of mini Lightning just for exchanges. Which is also
cool.
not the worst idea, but now that we have Lightning, it does all that and more. Why not just do it with that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the original question was how we got into that. And on phone refills, we sell the same product in Bangladesh as in the US. The difference is on the order size, and we'd have orders down to 20 cents. That were going on chain, and gradually fees went up high, and we had the customers that were paying like 100% of the order size in transaction fees, and so in some ways it's good feedback that they want to use the service even if it's super expensive for them, but obviously that was never the goal. So and we did all kinds of stuff at the time. We added our user accounts. We built off-chain integrations with leading wallets and exchanges. We added the first 3 or 4 altcoins, and gradually moved towards Lightning as well.
As an outsider perspective, like I've only been at Bitrefill for about 5 months, and the way Bitrefill kind of came into my life was when BitPay lost Steam as a customer, and that was big news. And at the time, I was like, man, I actually used that. Like I liked being able to use Bitcoin at Steam, and I immediately searched for an alternative, and Bitrefill quickly, popped into the scene and started selling gift cards for Steam. And I was like, okay, perfect. And I think that was kind of the early start from the outsider perspective. That was when Bitrefill started doing more gift cards and started growing to the gift card realm, and then got more and more attention. And now it just keeps escalating into this year.
And have you guys ever talked to Steam? I guess it's not like you just call a phone number.
I think someone at Bitrefill has at some point spoken to somebody at Steam, but the nature of like we use gift card wholesaling firms, right? So that we get as broad coverage with as little effort on our part as possible. So like all of the different brands that you see, almost all of them we don't have a direct relationship with, but we work with middleman companies. But as sort of our volumes grow, it becomes more and more relevant for the bigger ones to establish the connections directly and so on. But it's still like even if we're proud of our metrics and we think that we're doing really well with our 16-person company and so on. If we compare it to the metrics that Steam is seeing, we're not really big enough to make a significant dent to start, making demands in the negotiations. Not yet. Give it a couple of years.
And I mean, if that makes you feel better, I remember reading something from Purse.io, and somebody was asking like, how does Amazon feel about you guys doing this? And the reply was, we don't think Amazon know we're doing this because Amazon is just enormous and Purse.io is not.
I mean, all of our whole space is so tiny compared to the scale of big companies. Amazon alone in the US alone does 8 million payments every day, right? And that's just American people just on Amazon.com, and like so if we take all of crypto combined, and maybe and maybe remove the arbitrage traffic between different exchanges and see like what is the economic activity going on here. We're 2, 3, 4 orders of magnitude away from sort of playing in the same ball field as them.
I was going to say as well, I caught in one of your recent blog posts about kind of how Lightning has grown at Bitrefill. So it mentioned something about at the moment it's 5% of the total payments, and growing a lot quicker, right? How's it panning out on that side of things?
It's still a small percentage of our total sales, 5% or so. It's getting to be one of the higher percentages in relation to the altcoins that we accept. But even those sometimes spike as well to higher percentages. So it's growing quickly, but it's still a small portion. So I think everything looks like what we would expect for Lightning. It hasn't been around a long time. There's still a lot of development. There's still a lot of features being fleshed out, but the pace of usage seems to be growing along with the pace of the network size of Lightning itself.
I mean, I'm a pretty old school Bitcoin guy, but I generally only pay for anything using a mobile wallet. It's like it feels more secure, and it's easier. You scan the QR codes. Do you think once we start seeing all these Lightning wallets, that will be like the point where people, jump across from on-chain to Lightning?
I think so. I mean, go ahead, Sergej.
There you go.
I was going to say, I think that like there's an argument to be made for saying that Lightning is like people's hot wallet. It's the commercial hot wallet for users instead of a hot wallet in a business sense. So I don't see any reason why people, especially for people that are spending and living off of crypto or regularly buying things with their crypto, why they might not even just get their first Bitcoin on Lightning and automatically start, using that way. Obviously, I think you're going to have arguments for people for, running your own node and storing your cold storage or, large amounts of Bitcoin in more secure ways. But I think, I've done some polls recently on Twitter. Like I asked people how many how many crypto wallets they have on their phone, and like most people had like 6 or more wallets on their phone. Like there are plenty of people are okay with putting some amount of crypto on their phone.
Oh, totally. And about you mentioned receiving your first Bitcoin in a Lightning wallet, and as far as I understand, that is not possible today. But I heard somebody, I believe it was Felix Weiss, say that someone is working on the way, so you can receive your first coins on Lightning without money.
Yeah, we provide that.
Okay, well, that was a good sales pitch.
Yeah, very.
There's a layup for you.
Andreas, you're a page fill. It's clear now. Mafia. The baseball hat is on the way in the mail.
Yeah.
So like we've mentioned that we're providing Lightning services and we haven't really been specific yet, but obviously we accept Lightning as a payment method, but we actually provide channel opening services. So we have the Thor product, which allows people to buy capacity, and then we upgraded that recently to the Thor Turbo channels, which Turbo channels is like a kind of hack we do with Lightning, where we can forward Bitcoin to anybody, and they can instantly spend it. So they don't have to wait for channel for confirmations to be able to start spending on Lightning. So if people come to us, now we're not an exchange, so you can't buy Bitcoin from us with fiat and have your first Bitcoin be on Lightning, but you could certainly gift somebody Lightning, Lightning Bitcoin as their first Bitcoin, and they could instantly spend it. So you can create an onboarding experience that really shows people what Lightning is if you really want to. You can say, hey man, scan this with your phone, and then all of a sudden they have Bitcoin on Lightning and they can tip with it or spend it.
Oh, so they don't have to wait for the 6 confirmations?
No, they have to wait for it.
Not to spend. They currently have to wait to receive, but but that's something we're discussing with some wallet developers about making optional for them to trust us because the way that Lightning works is that So when the end user is spending, they get less and less coins in their channel. So there's no way that they could, while it's unconfirmed, doesn't matter for us. We know that they can't scam us more than that. But there's also ways of doing that in the other direction. But then they need to trust us that we're not going to run away with their coins and double spend them. But that trust is also like only until it confirms, basically.
Yeah, right. So they would only have to trust you for the 6 confirmations. So,
yeah, and
optimally,
and so I think that eventually we're gonna start seeing that, and this is like part of something we're talking about doing now, is offering the Thor service for integration for example for an exchange, so that the exchange can offer Lightning withdrawals, but also for people who don't have Lightning yet, so they can withdraw straight to their Lightning phone, and it arrives in a Lightning balance and it's immediately spendable. So that, for example, if the customer wants to buy something on Bitrefill or on some other service, or even if they just want to, hey, fuck, I want to sell my coins right away, they can send them back to the exchange and dump them back if they want to do that. So there's a lot of like really interesting things that become possible with tech that we kind of already have.
Yeah.
I was actually, so yesterday I was playing around with some Lightning wallets, and I've never really used Lightning before, and that was the biggest frustration I found personally, was that it seemed like there was so many steps to get to the point where I actually used it. So I think like what you said, if you can have it so I could actually receive that without going through those initial steps, that'd be a way easier way to sell this. It'd just be a lot more seamless.
So you can buy a Thor Turbo channel on Bitrefill now, and you can pay for it with Lightning or with Bitcoin, which we accept at zero.conf, or with Litecoin or Dogecoin or whatever, and you'll get it without waiting for 2 times 6 or 3 confirmations.
And Blake, you mentioned to me before the show that you were using Eclair, which is the one I was using for a while. What mobile wallets have you guys tried, or like you can recommend that have Lightning?
I've tried a lot of them. In order to use turbo channels, you actually have to use Bitcoin Lightning Wallet from Anton, and because it requires that hack to make it work. But the idea is hopefully we'll get this kind of tech into more wallets in the future, so when Blake's trying things, he'll have a better user experience. But as far as wallets that I like, I really like the Breezes. They're experimenting with Neutrino early, and they have a lot of cool perspectives on how Lightning will play out into the future. Obviously, Jack Mahler's is doing Zap, and he has a nice product there. The Lightning Labs wallet is looking nice. There are a lot of wallets that you can try for Lightning right now. Blue Wallet is a nice experience, but it's custodial. A lot of people are still using it anyway. But it depends on what you're going for. I think as long as people know whether it's custodial or what they're getting themselves into, I don't have a problem with them choosing to use it. But I would like to see some consolidation in the Lightning wallet market, and that way we can have better products and less quantity of them.
Okay. There was actually sorry, just to jump in, but there was so if you guys didn't know, John wrote a really great article which came out a couple of days ago in Bitcoin Magazine, which we'll link below. But I saw you mention there about kind of, I think there was a mention of you see the future as kind of non-custodial, and that's kind of in your thesis like what it should be. I wanted to ask you guys what your take was on those custodial wallets, and I know you kind of touched on it there, John, but do you see a place for it, and how do you see that panning out long term?
Oh, it's kind of like I just said. I think as long as people understand what they're getting into, they're welcome to come on in here. Lightning developers have been like hashtagging reckless and telling people to be careful, but that never ends. It's going to be reckless forever. There's always going to be some kind of risk to using new technology. Even Bitcoin itself is still a risk to use it. So we're being more experimental, but I think that that's okay. I think that I want people to feel like they can come on in and use the products. And but as far as custodial, in that article, I'm more making the case that I don't like the idea of how Coinbase and some of the larger companies are seeming to make an effort to like hold as much of your value as possible. They're like gathering Bitcoins and they're trying to get people to like, there are companies like BlockFi and things like this that are trying to get people to get percentages on holding Bitcoins for them. And to me, this is like, yeah, this is like antithetical to why we made Bitcoin. We made Bitcoin to remove trust, and now everybody is like trying to put their Bitcoin to work by trusting people. And I think eventually this blows up in your face, you know, every once in a while, and some people get hurt. So I like the idea better than rather than trying to compete with the system, just trying to like extract ourselves from the system. And I think that Lightning is providing another step towards that. Like, a lot of people hold money on exchanges because they want to be able to sell at any time. They want to be able to trade. But if you have Lightning working with exchanges, you can instantly get that capability and hold the Bitcoin yourself, you know, until you need to spend it, until you need to trade it. So there's less need at least to have custody at the exchange if you know you can send your Bitcoin there instantly.
And I mean, it's very off topic, but it just crossed my mind that maybe people want the Bitcoins to be working for them because they're so used to fractional reserve banking, where there is somebody on the other end just literally gambling with your money all day. Their job is to gamble with your money, and if they lose it, they just make more money. But you don't really see the loss. So when they come to Bitcoin, it kind of makes sense because you're like, hey, why doesn't my Bitcoin just become more Bitcoin every day? And I mean, the answer is because nobody's gambling with it. We can give you interest, but if you've looked at the interest rate of USD, even long-term deposits, it's nothing if it's a long-term deposit where they don't gamble with it. So even if you got like interest on your Bitcoin, it wouldn't be much.
I think there's also part of this is because the thought leaders, the smart people in the space keep telling people about security practices, right? You need to store your seed, and how do you store your seed phrase, and this and that, and how you need to have two-factor authentication. And I think that what the common man hears from all of that is that all this stuff is scary. I'll just put my coins on Coinbase instead. Which and there is nobody saying things like, hey, you know, the worst type of mobile wallet is probably safer than having your coins on Coinbase, right? But people don't say that, and so people don't sort of get that message as well, and people think that they need to have expert level security, and you know they were shaking hands, plug in their Ledger wallet, and, right? I mean,
every time, man.
Right, because that's sort of what we created. Whereas in reality, like I keep asking people, like, do you know somebody who had coins hacked from an iPhone wallet in the past 5 years? Like, have you heard a story of that? Nobody's heard about that. You know, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have good security practices, but I think that we should also sort of remind people that you know, the security practices of a custodial wallet is sort of, you still have the risk that your password will be stolen, but you also have the risk that this company will disappear for some reason, or turn evil, or hold your coins, or whatever.
I think there's also this kind of false hope or habit that people have where they're used to where, like, if a bank loses their money, they still get their money back. Or if something bad happens with a custodian, they don't lose money, they get reimbursed. But I think that hasn't been tested enough with Bitcoin. People don't realize that, like, if somebody took all of Coinbase's Bitcoins, those Bitcoins aren't coming back. Like, you know, maybe you'll get a settlement like with the Mt. Gox thing where you'll get like a dollar value in 5 years from what they lost. But like, as far as I know, like the Bitfinex hack is the closest thing to anybody actually getting their Bitcoin back. And even that was valued at in fiat value for the debt instrument they created.
I actually got coins back once from a company that went under.
Yeah.
So similar, I guess, to what you described. This was before we recorded, but from an exchange that shut down after a hack, and several years later, I asked for the coins back and got them back.
There's another dynamic going on, and there's a much higher risk to the custody than I think people realize. Sure. There's much less protection than they think they have in practice.
But I think we all agree about these values, but I would just add that, you know, like, I think the nature of Bitcoin is that it's permissionless, which means literally you can do whatever you want. And in such an environment, there will always, I think that it's a law of nature that custodial services will always be cheaper and more efficient than non-custodial. And so I think it's something that probably, I hope I'm wrong about this, but my gut feeling is that this, wherever we take the tech next, there will always be a custodial services that can, like add another nifty little thing on top of it. And if people want to use that, I think that it's part of the nature of Bitcoin is that they can. I think, as John said before, like as long as we have a clear, declaration of contents, marking of it, then that should be enough, I would say. But and of course, all of us here are here for a vision where people hold their own coins, and we're working towards that. And if we continue to do that, then I think we have a good chance of many people doing that.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's a spectrum, because it's like, sending Coinbase to Coinbase transactions was our layer 2 before we had Lightning. And Lightning is just a better version of a layer 2. We're always going to have the spectrum of layers, and custody is going to be at the epitome of the efficiency end of the spectrum, and Bitcoin is going to be at the other end of the inefficiency spectrum, the highest security.
And then there's, as always, the question of how non-custodial is your non-custodial wallet. If it's in the iPhone App Store and they can push an update and take your coins at any time, then what difference does it make if you wrote down your seed phrase somewhere?
Oh, don't tell people about that.
Didn't compile it from source that you.
Yeah, it is. That's the weird part about Bitcoin is like most people are trusting regardless. I mean, how many people are actually auditing the code that they install in at any time, at any point? I don't even have that capability personally. So I've always trusted to use Bitcoin.
Well, there is the social trust that somebody that you trust will on Twitter write pretty quickly that, and I think also that there's not really a word for that yet, but sort of. It's the same as like Bitrefill is custodial in some ways. You have to trust us, but at the same time, if we start scamming people and not delivering, it will be noticed pretty quickly. So we can only scam for like 2, 3, 5, 10 orders, right? And then there will be uproar on the internet. Whereas there's other companies where they can like disappear with 100,000 bitcoins. So there's like a different level of trust in the scale.
Yeah, it's like a glass hammer aspect. You can only bang a glass hammer so many times before it breaks. And that's kind of like a quality that's common in Bitcoin.
I was going to ask you guys as well. I mean, in terms of, so on Bitrefill right now, you take Bitcoin, Lightning, Dash, Doge, Litecoin, Ethereum. Why is there a reason why you've opted to push Lightning versus looking at some other altcoins which kind of do have faster settlement times and are a lot faster? Is there a reason why you've gone down that route when you're not using what's already there? I'm always intrigued to ask that question to people.
We are using what's already there. We have Litecoin, we have Dogecoin, and Dash and Ethereum. So we are using those things and monitoring them closely. What we're seeing is that they're like in the narrative of the old debate that was that the limited block space is what's holding the industry back. If it was really the case that it was the transactional capacity that was the bottleneck of this industry, then we would have already seen that things like Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash and so on would be 90% of the traffic. And the reason that why we're not seeing that is probably that there is a certain network effect and a certain draw with Bitcoin in particular. And so Lightning is attractive because, first of all, it is literally Bitcoin. The Lightning transactions are Bitcoin transactions. It just warps the Bitcoins in a special way to make them zap over the internet faster. But also that Lightning as a technology is Bitcoin-like in the sense that it's a piece of software that you can install and you run it yourself, and you don't have any real counterparty when you run it. There's no real Lightning foundation and this and that, and so it is it's Bitcoin-like in spirit, which I think we also like, and just the fact that it could potentially scale by several orders of magnitude definitely further than any of the so-called big block coins can do.
And also, I suspect if you added like EOS, which I've never even tried, or Ripple, or what are all these things called, Tron. I mean, nobody uses that stuff. There's no way.
Yeah, I think another dimension to add to this is that while at the moment, you can compare a popular altcoin to Lightning and say, okay, they're both going to settle relatively quickly and they're both going to be relatively cheap to transact within compared to Bitcoin. They are different designs, and my belief is that any altcoin using any type of remotely standard blockchain design to transact in their network at scale, the same things that happen to Bitcoin happen to that altcoin. The blocks get full, the transactions get expensive. At scale, I think that everything looks the same. And so Lightning is different because it is literally a different design and designed to work at scale, to remain instant and remain, inexpensive at scale.
And yeah, I mean, if you think about it, even Dash has a feature called instant send. But the instant send is it's fast. It's fast because there's trust. There's trust in the masternodes, and masternode is a level 2 protocol. So yeah, that is a good point.
But again, some trust. I think that some trust in order to make things faster is okay. Like there was even the old green address protocol that never took off on Bitcoin, but the idea that the wallet will co-sign transactions and guarantee that they're not going to double spend. And so then as the merchant, you can choose, and Bitcoin did the same. As the merchant, you can choose to trust them to not double spend. And so you have some trust, but then that lets you do the zero conf in a even more reliable version than the base protocol allows.
Yeah, this is what's interesting about Lightning, is that the trust profile is more like the centralized trust, people that you trust on this network. They can't really be much more than a nuisance to you. Like, they can't steal your money, they can't censor your ability to use it. They can just kind of disrupt what you expected from the network and be a nuisance, and then you can opt out and go somewhere else. But like, the trust profile is just much lower and adds a lot more convenience to be able to have that setup.
Awesome. I know Sergej, before the call, I know you mentioned something about wanting to touch on some Twitter antics.
No, I mean, generally, I think from what I've seen from Andreas' activities, he tends to critically evaluate technology and by trying it and so on, and has often punched both in this direction and that direction, and slayed a couple of holy cows and beliefs and so on. And I think that's a good attitude to have. So yeah, like, I think that in our current state of the crypto community, where people have locked themselves into these different camps, and like right now we're seeing the maximalists fighting each other because there's this nice versus not nice group and so on. But like at the end of the day, I think it's important to see which arguments have merit on which side, and so on, because there is always granularity to different things.
Yeah, I mean, about the holy cows, I mean, I've been in Bitcoin for a very long time, and I mean, I'm a programmer, so the first thing I did is start making stuff. So I never ended up in any of these camps, like the HODL or this and that camp, because I'm just too busy making stuff. And that also means I've been annoyed with Bitcoin since 2011. Completely honest. It is really, as a developer and a user, I think it's really awful. and I think it's always been pretty bad. So that I think that is why I have a different view. Like,
so why let me ask you
back
then.
in the day, it was like back in the day, just like interacting with Bitcoin as a programmer, speaking to the Bitcoin node, that API is like piss poor design, and it's the same today.
So
that was
why did you stick around then, given that?
Because we don't have anything else. So am I going to program gold bars? Like, this is it.
There's Ripple.
I tried Ripple very early. I even interviewed to join Ripple in 2013, before Chris was the CEO. And I was annoyed with Ripple too. Back then it was actually working, like you could run your own node. Now that's not possible. But no, so with Bitcoin, I mean, I pretty much have the same opinion today. Like, I'm critical of the user experience, and I try to drive improvement there. So, I mean, even today, I was ranting to one of my friends how you can't adjust the fee you used when you open and close a channel in LND, which is a very popular Lightning node. I checked out all the GitHub issues, replied like, hello, is anybody working on this? Tried to find where in the source code it is. Because, I don't know, a lot of the times it feels like I'm the only one who cares about this stuff. And everybody else is just, they're so deep in this number go up philosophy, which is, if I ever criticize Bitcoin, the price of my Bitcoin will go down. So my best play is to praise all the good stuff and ignore all the bad stuff, because then I'll feel safe and nobody else will notice, which I think is incredibly stupid. I mean, you should always strive to improve the user experience, which it seems like you guys are working at too. And yeah, I guess that's why people have this perception.
Yeah, I think some people can be a little
bit
bit lazy and not and get automatic about how they think about Bitcoin, because it's so complicated, and so you end up like deferring to your peers, and you end up being part of the tribe and just reiterating what the tribe is saying, because it saves you time and you have to go about your daily lives. But I do think there are a lot of people that are thinking about user experience. I do think Lightning actually is kind of opening up that area. It's making people think more about products and the actual user experience, because it's a ground up thing. It's like now we're starting over, and we're realizing we can't just throw people into like, okay, grandma, here's what channel capacity is, and here's when it's on your side and their side, and and here's how you get on and off Lightning, and it's explaining all this stuff to them. Obviously, we're going to have to mask this to make it usable.
Yeah. And Sergej, what do you think?
I mean,
about
this is all open source, right? So the standard open source defense always applies. That, hey, we didn't pay Lightning Labs any money, and probably neither did you, and so we don't have really rights to demand stuff from them. We only have rights to ask kindly on GitHub and so on. And in some ways, it's the same as it was with Linux and that community as well. There's always frustrations about the user interface and so on, and the standard response is like, yeah, well, we also have 99 other things that are equally or worse horribly broken that we need to work on, and limited resources.
I'm so glad I'm not a base layer developer, which is like fancy speak for actually writing the Bitcoin client or the Lightning nodes, because you will only get shit, and if it works, no one will even know you exist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the worst job in the world. And worst case, you end up like all the devs on Twitter these days, just like everybody's shitting on you.
Yeah, I've never built a road, but I sure hate when there are potholes in them.
But who will build the roads? I mean, I don't know.
But what if the terrorists use the roads? So maybe it's best that nobody builds them.
Yeah.
Just
I love it. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what the plans are for Bitrefill going forward, and yeah, what users can expect, and like even if it's like kind of pie in the sky thing.
Well, we try to I guess combine the pie in the sky stuff with building things that are here and now and sort of from the ground with what we actually have on the ground today, right? And so from what we have on the ground today, you know, you can expect the same gift card coverage that we have in the US right now for us to have that globally, so that people can use that a little bit everywhere. And over time, you know, move towards tighter integrations with merchants, but while trying to avoid some of the mistakes that I think problematic in the BitPay type model. But working that way, we're also working and looking at that, figuring out ways for people to be earning coins, right? And see how still haven't really decided what role we should be playing in such a world. But trying to figure out ways, because it's needed for the circular economy. You need something that you can buy, and in some place you can earn the coins. And I'll say it here on television that getting a cash back from your e-commerce purchase is not earning. But that's yeah. But yeah, so we need to find ways for people to earn their coins. And when it comes to Bitrefill, we will keep providing a sort of more well-rounded and integrated ecosystem around Lightning. I think that we're going to see in a not so distant future, but maybe it's going to be more than a year from now at least, that the vast majority of traffic is going to be over Lightning. I think when the exchanges move over to Lightning, then all of the other stuff will go to Lightning as well. And in that world, you know, we will be. We'll see if we'll be a wallet or not, but we'll be the thing that that gets people to buy stuff with with their actual bitcoins, right? And that strategy is relatively unchanged from regular Bitcoin to Lightning. It's kind of like that's what we want to be. We want to be the enablers for this economy, and gradually as we grow, you know, the big picture is that we want to be like Amazon became for e-commerce. You know, like the one-stop place for where people who live in crypto go to get whatever they need.
And obviously you're gonna have to launch an ICO at some point, but they're not called ICOs now.
There was actually an ICO.
IEOs.
No, yeah, but you got to go up the alphabet.
It was a scam. It wasn't us.
You got to go up the alphabet. So we're at IEO now. So you're gonna have to go up to, I don't know, initial
IO.
We'll go for the IQO right away.
Yes.
The smartest O. I just would echo the same thing that Sergej was saying. You know, basically, I think that the circular economy is like the master plan, and it should probably be that for most Bitcoin businesses. And right now, like we've kind of honed in on the living on crypto with being able to convert your Bitcoin into products and services. But you know, the whole loop involves earning in crypto, spending the crypto, and B2B crypto. And so I think that right now we're trying to find out how to branch into that more aspects of that circle. And with the Lightning services we're offering, basically we're going to see where people want liquidity, and we're going to try to free up that liquidity on the network by providing, you know, convenient services on the Lightning network. And we'll do the same thing with our products and services area. The part where, like as Sergej mentioned, the part we're furthest away from but seems to be one of the holy grails is the earning part. You know, finding more ways to make sure that people can earn Bitcoin, and make that easier and get people used to that.
What yeah, I mean, that's something I've been waiting for a long time. What would getting paid in Bitcoin, where Bitrefill provides that service, what would that look like?
I don't know. The easy one is, you could say stuff like Bitwage or whatever, where you just help businesses, you know, do their payroll in Bitcoin, but you don't really need a third party so much to help with that. And so far, like, this is still a holy grail. Nobody has really kind of come up with a perfect idea. But one thing I've mentioned in the past in interviews is, you know, just the concept of being able that Bitcoin and now Lightning allows streaming payments. It allows instant payments. So one little simple product example, which somebody needs to build, and I don't know if it will be us, is just something like a time clock, where when you punch in, you just got streaming payments, and you're getting paid instantly. There's no more, you're moving custody. You don't have to trust the business. You're in an earned situation, and you might even do micro tasks this way, or get a reputation where people can trust to just pay you instantly for your time. And there's no more waiting, and there's no more payroll and all this kind of stuff.
Just imagine this as a potential future, and the tech for this is basically exists. Is that you go on a website, like you go today for whatever company that you want to go on. In the bottom, in the footer, there's usually a jobs section. Imagine if there's also a gigs section, and you click on that, and there's a list of tasks. And tasks is simple stuff, but whatever, data entry, or go outside and take a picture of the sign on the street, or go charge an electric scooter, or whatever. And you click on it, the task comes up. There's no login, there's no account, there's no personal information, there's no nothing. You literally click, and you get the task, you do the task, you get the coins into your wallet, and you're done. And that is the entirety of the interaction. And nothing in the system depends on you even being a human, right? You could be a robot and do this. But you could also be of any age, live in any country, anything you want. And I think that we kind of already, we have part of the thing, of the answer in place. And that I'm pretty sure that if that there's probably a billion or two people that would gladly work for $10 a day or something, or $1 an hour or something like that for doing micro tasks. And if we can just figure out and break out of this Amazon Mechanical Turk lock-in, and figure that out, and that's something that potentially could be a world-changing type thing. So that's one example. Other examples could be things like figuring out how kids, teenagers who have there's a lot of kids that are 16 and have 1 million followers on whatever social media app is cool right now. How can they monetize this attention that they have in the best way? Maybe there's something there that involves Bitcoin in some way or form. It's still, nobody's cracked that, but my hunch is that some of that probably where we'll find the thing that takes off. And I actually think that we've kind of a couple of years ago, people were talking about the killer app and blah blah blah, and where is that going to happen? I'm starting to think that we're now, at least we kind of forgot about that for a couple of years while we were arguing about hard forks and big bucks and whatever. But it seems to me now that we've sort of we have the tech in place, and it's not unthinkable that something will pop up that will drive millions of people into Bitcoin. But can I say that it's going to happen in the next 6 months? No, but it could. And most likely, if and when such a thing happens, it will be ugly. It will be Bitcoin-like, and there will be scaling issues, and people will be arguing over how to scale Lightning nodes and what the best way, right? And so on. And the UI is not going to be perfect, and people are going to have bugs, and they're going to be explaining to tens of millions of 16-year-olds what a non-custodial wallet is and all of that stuff. But I kind of look forward to that. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, Bitcoin growing does require pain in other areas. Bitcoin doesn't expand the marketplace. There will be pain by the things that are getting to the things that are getting replaced.
And on that note, guys, where can everyone keep up to date with what you guys are doing at Bitrefill? And how do we keep up with you as yourselves as well? How do we follow you on Twitter? And just give us some more information on where to find you.
You can find Bitrefill at bitrefill.com, at Bitrefill on Twitter. We also have a blog, and soon we're going to be opening up a Telegram channel as well for people to interact with us. And you can follow me at Bitcoin Error Log on Twitter.
And I'm at Zigamon Twitter. I think if you misspell it, it will autocorrect it.
Nice, perfect. And as always, guys, remember to follow Andreas on Twitter as well. Abrken, ABRKN, I think, right? That's the one. And yeah, check out SideShift AI as well. Access codes are now live with version 0.2. The automated coin swap. Check that out as well.